seconds. Hey, they can hear everything you guys say on the internet, so.
Okay, we're good. We're live.
Good evening and welcome to the February 2nd, 2021 committee meeting of the Natchitoches Parish School Board. And we will begin the meeting, if you'll please silence your cell phones, and we'll start with our superintendent's report.
So I have a somewhat long list of things to update you because, as we know, it's been a month since we last spoke. But I would first like to recognize someone in the audience who Reverend Harris, our president of the school board, invited, and that's Dr. Chris Maggio. I'd like to first say that one of the things that the board really expressed to me when I was first hired was the desire to really enrich the relationship between the school district and NSU, who's just a massive resource in our community, in our region. And I think, Dr. Maggio is obviously a large, massive part of why that is. And we have, over the past 8 months, done a lot of talking, a lot of collaboration, and I think that relationship is very much strong. It's just growing every day. And so I'd like to give him a chance. He wanted to share a few things at the request of Reverend Harris to highlight that relationship. So, Dr. Maggio.
Good afternoon. Is this
You can take off. Yes, sir.
speaker can take off? Good afternoon. Thank you so much, Superintendent. First of all, I appreciate you in your leadership. You are exactly spot on when you said we've had a lot of conversations. I know you and I personally, but also the personnel, the administrators, the faculty, staff at Northwestern. So I want to thank you for your leadership. To the board, thank you so much. I watch you from afar. I see how hard you work. I see your love and passion for the students of Natchitoches Parish, and for that I thank you very, very much. The relationship between Northwestern State University and Natchitoches Parish School Board is strong and getting even stronger. I wanted to kind of talk to you a little bit about some of these things that you've heard, but I want to talk to you about a couple of points that we've done recently, some of the things that we continue to work on, and then answer any questions that you might have. Right now, Natchitoches has 2 CLIP residents. That's the Central Louisiana Economic Partnership. Northwestern 3 years ago was the beneficiary as a partner in a grant from the Orchard Foundation, which is an arm of the Rapides Foundation, to put more STEM teachers in middle school, math and science. Natchitoches Parish is now taking part of that grant. We have 2 of your teachers that are in middle schools right now, Sam Wright at Fairview Alpha, Christian Broussard at Marthaville. They are earning their Master's of Arts in Teaching from NSU, while serving alongside a master teacher in Natchitoches Parish Schools. That's very important that we continue. That's going to build in the future as we have more people that are certified teachers in the STEM area. Our School of Education at Northwestern has partnered with Natchitoches Parish Schools to begin a Grow Your Own initiative, which we think is very important. We're currently working with Ms. Pinckney, who recently submitted a grant to the Louisiana Department of Education for an Educators Rising program with Natchitoches Parish Schools. Again, building the workforce for the future. Our Natchitoches Parish Laboratory Schools, our NSU Laboratory Schools, is working to launch a middle school Educators Rising program beginning this fall of 2021. Again, talking about the importance of the field of teaching. Our School of Education, again, this is very important, and you've heard this. We're working with the uncertified teachers in Natchitoches Parish to help them pass the praxis exam, which has become a roadblock in so many ways. In the fall of 2020, we offered practice workshops virtually, and we were beginning to do that in this spring as well. We're using a forum called Tutoring 240 to increase the number of certified teachers within Natchitoches Parish Schools. The NSU Testing Center is opening up on Saturdays now to work with the teachers where they can take and go to our testing center where they can test on the weekends where they don't have to take time away from their school during the week. In another area with our students, we're working to increase the number of dual enrollment students at Northwestern. I asked for some numbers before I came over. This fall we had 75 students, Natchitoches Parish students, that were taking dual enrollment courses. That's increased to 86 this spring. So we see a big increase in the spring, and we've already started discussions where we're looking for, our goal is to not only offer dual enrollment credits, but eventually to have a credential at the end of it, an associate degree, once they graduate from high school, to not only have their high school diploma, but an associate degree as well. So that's going to be an exciting thing for the future, and some of the discussions that the superintendent and I are having right now, and people at Northwestern as well. You know, I want to say generally, we've always had a great relationship with our students in Natchitoches Parish, but it's really exciting to see the resources that we have at our hand right now with having a university and having a thriving K-12 system as well, and to see how we put these things together, whether it's talking about curriculum development, as we've done over the last year, and things how we can do as we look at some initiatives in the STEM field and others, but continue to work those initiatives. So I think that we continue to work not only helping to try to get more certified teachers and helping through that, but also those student initiatives as well. I've personally been to, and our staff from Northwestern have been to both Lakeview High School and have been to Natchitoches Central, where we talked to those students before the priority deadlines for scholarships to let those graduating seniors know and the upcoming juniors know these are the opportunities that you have and the advantages that you have to applying early to a college. We know that all of our coming to Northwestern. We want what's best for those students, but there are a lot of opportunities at your local university, and the response has been overwhelming. And again, when I talk about working with the faculty and the leadership and the counselors at the different schools, just a wonderful relationship, and it's continuing to get stronger. So with that, I think you get a feel of some of the things that we're doing at the university and some of the outreach and this two-way street and this communication. Again, I want to applaud you and thank you for your efforts, and I really appreciate that. And I'll open it up if you have any questions that I might can answer. Pastor, thank you for the invitation as well.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
You mentioned about the possibility of a student being able to obtain an associate degree in the near future. Is there any time frame now? Or I know you're still working on it.
Well, we're working at it. It takes, we have to work through our accrediting body, SAC-COC.
Okay.
We have to develop the pathways, because to get an associate degree is 60 hours of dual enrollment. So it's not just, taking 1 or 2 your junior year, 1 or 2 your senior year, and you have that. It's a 60-hour degree, but it can be done. We're doing it with some other schools, and it can be done. And so those discussions are in earnest. So we hope to be able to roll that out, hopefully over this next year, that we could start the process and the pathway, so people that are coming into high schools now in the next couple of years will have that opportunity for an associate degree as well. And look, we're working with some of the folks, some other programs that we have at Northwestern. Some of you may have heard about the Advanced Manufacturing Technician program at the university. This is a wonderful program that people that might not have been thinking about going to college, they thought they might want to go into the world of work right after college. We're seeing a lot of those jobs becoming more technically focused. You got to have more technical skills. We created a program at Northwestern called, we refer to it as the AMT program, Advanced Manufacturing Technician. And this is where we bring students in, and we have a partnership between Northwestern, Central Louisiana Technical Community College, and our area manufacturers. So listen to this, how exciting this is. Students come in, and they take courses on Tuesday and Thursday, academic courses. On Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, they go to work in some of our partners. And I hate to start naming them because I'm going to forget somebody. But if you have Alliance and Royal Martin and folks such as this, Weyerhaeuser and Boise and folks like that, some of our manufacturers, and they work for them Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, where they can earn 20 plus hours a week of good wages at $12 plus an hour. And at the end of 2 years, they have an associate degree in engineering technology from Northwestern. They have a certificate in advanced manufacturing from Central Louisiana Technical Community College. And they've been working at that employer who probably wants to hire them full time, and are, as we've seen, some of them are even paying for their education to continue to that 4-year engineering degree and work for them in the future. we've got discussions, and we've got, as a matter of fact, we have a young man from Natchitoches Parish interviewing this week for that program at Northwestern. So there's a lot of things, some little, we might say, but some large, that we're really making a lot of inroads in a lot of things that we're doing.
Well, I just can't say thank you enough, because I think any superintendent would love to have a Dr. Maggio right down the road from him. Selfishly, besides all the things you listed, I enjoy having them because when there's a weather day, we can collaborate, and I'm not on my own with that. So it's kind of like having another school district right down the road. So maybe sometimes he makes the hard call, and other times it's me. So, but in all seriousness, just a wealth of resources and advice, and just partners, neighbors, because we're all in the same community. And so I can't thank you enough, Dr. Maggio, for all that you're doing and have done and are going to do together. So
We really appreciate the coordination.
Thank y'all so much.
Getting it rolling.
Well, and I, of course, I would be remiss to say, it's certainly not just us two that's
Yeah.
doing the discussions. Dr. Kim McAllister, who's our Dean of our College of Education and Human Development, Dr.
Ms.
Katrina
Pinkney,
Jordan,
Ms. Page.
and Dave, then all the folks on your side that are just, it's just, those are where it really are the conversations. So I hope I didn't come across, it was just these two guys.
We're just the suits.
That's where the real work is being done, and I want to applaud them for their works, because you have a great staff here.
We appreciate y'all, this is way over the.
Dr. Maggie,
It's way over.
Dr. Maggie, I thank you for coming, because I just wanted everybody to actually hear and see what's been in the working for a long time. If Ms. Pinkney will tell you, when I first got on the board here, that's one of the first conversations that we had, and we finally got the right people in the right places who are visionaries. Thank God for Dr. Visionary who would make it work. And so y'all are intricate parts of making it work and giving the people around you the go-ahead. So we thank Dr. McAllister, we thank everyone. My wife just happened to be in the audience tonight, the counselors and things like that. And there's a guy, he's not here tonight, but he's my next door neighbor, Mike Stewart. Mike, he's a wonderful guy. He's my brother from another mother. So I'm just glad to know, and I want to jump over across our former president for the work that he did, you know, and work that he's still doing. So thank everybody. I just wanted everybody to get a chance to see just what's coming very soon. And this has been in the work, and so it's going to be actual in a few.
Well, again, thank you all. Y'all got a great vision. We got to stay at it. We got to keep moving forward, because we got some great things. The future is bright. Let's continue working together. Thank you.
Thank you. Superintendent, I want to apologize. I was going to have our board to repeat persistent pursuit of progress. Together we work.
Together we can, yes, sir. So I'm going to actually bring that up here in a second. So you're ahead of the game. So, but I wanted to mention a few things. First off, I would be remiss if we have multiple groups that are being recognized during this time period. A+ Coalition has done a wonderful job of recognizing these fine folks around here, because it is National School Board Member Appreciation Month, I believe.
January.
So y'all get to be celebrated this entire month, and we appreciate all y'all do. We also want to recognize that it is Counselor Appreciation Week, and as Reverend Harris said, we have a counselor in the audience, so thank you, counselors. Any good principal will tell you that a good counselor is worth their weight in gold. We also just recently had National Resource Officer recognition, so we recognize all our resource officers in the Sheriff's Department who provides those folks for us. Also National FFA Teacher Week, and we have some fine FFA teachers who are teaching our folks how to weld and how to do all that agricultural stuff that is foreign to me, but I appreciate it because it's so important to so many of our students. And then this month, obviously, we're 2 days into African American History Month, and I sent an email to our faculty and staff the other day, just encouraging them to dig deep with our students and make sure that they understand the contributions of our African American members of our great nation and what they've contributed, because I think oftentimes that sometimes gets glossed over, and we don't want that to be the case in any of our classrooms, and so we want our students to recognize that and our teachers to do so as well. On to some other things, some vaccinations. We were the first district in the state of Louisiana, and fortunately if you're from Natchitoches, the only district in the state of Louisiana to offer COVID vaccinations to our staff. I have to give a massive shout out to Kirk Swallow. It is nothing that Grant Eloy did. Yes. And he will be here Thursday, and we're going to recognize him again. But were it not for him and his initiative and his innovation, we would still not be vaccinated. And we're looking forward to getting our second dose here in about a week or so. And as Ms. Page told me, there was people in tears. There was people who wanted to bring us cakes and pies. And I think they actually did for a few of us, because it was a personal decision for everyone. And some folks didn't choose to do it, but for those who did, they could finally breathe a sigh of relief. And we were happy just to be able to say yes to Kirk and allow that to happen. So very excited about that. And to his whole team. And again, same as Dr. Maggio said, if I start naming people, I wouldn't be able to name them all. But I know here locally, Ms. Page, for 3 or 4 days, that's all she did. And along with her new assistant, Ms. Freydu, she's helping her with all that stuff, and she's a registered nurse. And so it just makes us so much more effective in our COVID response. So they're superstars there. As far as COVID numbers, our COVID numbers are basically the same they've been. We're seeing about 10 cases of teachers, 10 cases of students a month, and that's been relatively consistent. A lot of people, they'll say, oh, I thought we had a lot more than that. You gotta realize quarantines are not cases. True blue cases, we're seeing, again, about 10 for teachers, 10 for students, and we're seeing, as the board members are fully aware, because I text them every time it happens, we are seeing quarantines of classes and all those things, but again, that's out of a high degree of caution. It's not fun. Quarantines aren't fun. I've been there. Most of us in this room have been at a quarantine at some point, but it's very important for us to adhere to quarantine standards and do our part to help mitigate the virus. As a parish, not as a school district, we are below 10% positivity rate, which is much better than we were last month. We actually rose above that 10% and came close to 15%. So we're seeing it kind of level off, so we're excited with that. And we are constantly, every Monday, my team can tell you, a large part of our discussion is COVID measures and how can we improve our response and areas we can keep doing more in that area. To diverge a little bit, as Dr. Maggio mentioned, we have enlisted a company called 240 Tutoring, and I did a little survey this morning of how many employees we have in that program. We currently have 33 employees taking advantage of that free tutoring program, and between 33 of them, just in the past week and a half, 2 weeks, they've logged over 81 hours of study time, because we can track and see all of what they're doing. They're taking quizzes, they're taking little flashcard things, doing all these things only to improve their ability to pass the praxis. And as I told our principals this week, we're paying for them to do the study. Once they take the test, if they pass it, we're paying for the test. And then once they sign up for an alternative certification program, we're paying a portion of their, I think $1,000 per every class, every 3 credit hours. So, and then if they do all that, and then they pass and they get their diploma and all that, then they go up in salary. So at every level of this program, it's a positive for the individual. And it also obviously benefits students.
So that's the top tier of grow your own.
It is. But and to the point of grow your own, the programs at Middle Lab and at the high schools where Ms. Pinkney applied for the grant today, we're going to be teaching high school students how to be teachers, and they'll be able to get credits towards a teaching degree. And you may say, well, wow, these are juniors and seniors. Well, give them 4 or 5 years, they're going to be the teachers in our classrooms. So we believe in that initiative, and as Dr. Maggio said, Dr. McAllister has been really helpful in that. This past week, we also introduced our vision to everyone. This vision was created by all of our stakeholders, but it's very simple, because as many of my folks will tell you, I believe in simple visions. Some districts, you'll see this grandiose, wordy statement. I don't believe in that. I want something that can roll off the tongue quick, and every principal, every teacher, every employee, every student can remember it. And that is, and if you want to say it together, Reverend Harris, persistent pursuit of progress. And if you saw in the video that Ms. Paris put out, we want to know what that means to students. We want to know what it means to teachers. And they all gave great answers. None of them were wrong. They're all right in their own way. And it's basically that every day we want to improve. Every day we want to improve this district and make it better. So we're excited about that. I'm also happy to report to you an update of our desegregation case. 3 years ago, the deseg order came through, but interestingly enough, in Natchitoches Parish, the judge ordered a three-year supervisory period after unitary status was achieved. We have now passed that 3-year supervisory period, and we have applied with Hammond, Seals, and Geis to have that removed, and that's in the process of happening. So we already were unitary, but now we're unitary, so to speak. And so that's exciting news for the district. Although, as I've told in my discussions with Reverend Harris, we still want to abide by the philosophy and ideals behind the desegregation case, which is to treat our students with equity and respect, no matter their race, creed, color, religion, etc.
Let me ask you this.
Yes, sir.
And tell our audience and people who are tuning in, what does it mean to have unitary status?
So desegregation orders came down after Brown versus Board of Education, and you had to achieve, obviously because of the history of segregation and Jim Crow and all those things, and the history we know of the South and how separate was not equal. It was inherently unequal, and so to achieve unitary status, you had to show that you had a system that was inherently equal. And those, the litmus test for that was the green standards, which I'll be honest with you, Reverend Harris, I can't repeat verbatim off the top of my head, but by achieving unitary status, what the judge is telling you is that you've achieved those green standards, and you are now able to operate without a federal judge overseeing and making sure that you're not doing things that are inherently systematically racist.
Superintendent Eloy, I think it's, if I can, maybe, it's not only you've achieved it, but you've also maintained it, is that correct?
That's right.
That is correct.
There were 5 green factors, and as I talked to Dr. Eloy, I just want to make sure that we, because this board, I think this board is a wonderful board. I don't think we would ever slip back into where we were. And we didn't think we would slip back into where we were with the voters' rights. We didn't think we were going to be slipping backward. But there was a saying that there arose of pharaohs who did not know Joseph. And with that being said, I know that Dr. Eloy will make sure that we will keep things in order. But I think it's incumbent upon this board to make sure we put things in line so that we can be authorities over ourselves to make sure that it'll never happen again.
Correct. And to put it colloquially, I know Joseph, so.
That's right, that's right. And he knows Joseph.
So we're really excited about that. I mean, you're talking about 1954's Brown versus Board of Education. So this was a 76-year process. Is that, or 66-year process? So a long time coming, and obviously something we want to still be very mindful of. I also want to mention the fact that we got some EOC scores, and I actually should call them LEAP 2025, that's end of course exams, from Natchitoches Central, and obviously many people thought scores would be down, and we don't have our full scores yet, but in the midst of a pandemic, it has to be recognized that 3 students at Natchitoches Central received perfect scores, 2 on ELA, 1 on Algebra 2, and we recognize those teachers, and I think we're recognizing them with a social media post, and I sent a personal email to all 3 of them. But, you know, this was, again, in the midst of a pandemic. It would have been something to celebrate anytime, but especially I think now. So kudos to Mr. Gordy and his staff and those students, and that be on the lookout for that post tomorrow. Friday and Monday were perhaps my favorite days that I have been superintendent of Natchitoches Parish, because I was able to go with Mr. Wascom on a tour of our city schools. Mr. Wascom, as you know, we call him David Copperfield around here because he's the magician. And actually, we don't call him that. I just made that up. But he always seems to pull money out of the hat, and he hates when I say that. But the thing about it is he has a mind for budgets. And what we were able to do is we were able to look at the city schools, the bond issue for District Number 9. As you know, a lot of those projects are being completed, but I think many of you were wanting to know where those projects were, what did we still have completed, and the one that keeps coming to my mind is probably about 4 or 5 months ago, Ms. Palmer, you had mentioned to me the lack of a pre-K playground at LP Vaughn. And I told you we'd look into it. Well, that was part of the bond issue.
Great.
They're going to have playgrounds. So we now have an idea, and not only were we able to make sure that everything's being completed in the proper timeline and what has been completed, but we have realized that we're probably going to have somewhat of a surplus of funds. And so we were able in certain areas to go to schools and say, what else do you need? And so we were able to do that with every city school, and I think LP Vaughn's going to have new playground equipment for every grade level. We're going to be able to do some beautification of our buildings on the outside to make them look as good as we know they feel on the inside. And so we were able to go to pretty much every school in the city and give them good news. And it was the first time some of the principals were speechless, that they didn't know what they needed because they didn't expect this windfall, so to speak. And we're also going to be investing in the arts, possibly put in some music programs at NJH and East, and also enriching our programs that are already in place. So very exciting news. Mr. Wascom is going to email you board members, a detailed list of every project that he has in the works, every project that's been completed, and every project that is soon to be started. So it's very, very exciting. I think by next school year, you're going to see some very easy reminders that money has been well spent at these schools around the city. So it's very, very awesome. And if y'all have any questions about that,
Yeah, I've got it right here too.
Yeah. Okay. Another big issue, and I promise I'm going to try to be brief in the next 2 things so we can move forward, because I know this has been going on for a while now, is instructional coaches. For those of you who read closely the strategic plan, a hallmark of the strategic plan is instructional coaches. Instructional coaches don't solve all your problems, but if you get a good team in place, the research tells you if you effectively use research-based practices with instructional coaches, and you do that with fidelity, then you can see great gains, especially with teachers who need more help in the classroom, teachers who maybe have gone the alternative route or they're still not certified. We are going to come to you next month with a new job description where we're going to be asking for an instructional coach at every school. Some of these schools, such as LP Vaughn and Natchitoches Central, would require more than one. And we're going to be asking those of you because we are currently in talks with a person with the State Department who was instrumental in moving DeSoto from a D to an A. And we are copying their playbook, and I am more than happy to proudly say that, because if it worked, there's no need to recreate the wheel. And we are working with them step by step to do these positions in the right way. Because too often districts, they throw money at positions and they happen, and then you don't do it correctly or you get the wrong people and nothing changes. What we want to do is we want to pull these people in. We want to make them the instructional folks in the building where they're able to coach teachers, deal with the data, create our proficiency exams where we can tell quarter to quarter if a student is learning or is not learning, and then we can respond to that learning or lack of learning in the appropriate manner. We also have an issue in this district where teachers are coming to professional development all the time, and y'all probably heard this refrain from teachers. Instead, what we can do is we can do professional development with these instructional coaches, and then during PLCs, professional learning communities, they can go back to their schools and they can instruct the teachers. And so we are putting a lot of emphasis on this, and I'm probably going to be talking to some board members throughout the next month, but you will have a job description at the March board meeting that will fully outline what that position is going to look like. I can tell you this, your principals in this district are ecstatic about this position because they know this is someone who can truly help them achieve that persistent pursuit of progress and raise their SPS scores. So we'll be talking more about that in the coming weeks, but that'll be on the agenda for March. And finally, the last thing I promised that I have on my superintendent report is Dr. Maggio talked a lot about our stuff with NSU. And that's for our kids who are college bound. But we thoroughly believe in this district that equal to college bound students is our career bound students. There is no difference between those two. And unfortunately in our country, we've gotten to the point where people believe that college is superior, and students who want to go career-wise almost feel that they're not good enough because they're not going to college. We want to get rid of that mentality, and so we are investing heavily in our relationship with CLTCC as well. Miss Pinkney has been tirelessly talking with their staff over there and Miss Morrow about pathways with them and also the possibility of associate's degrees with them. And we are going to continue to enlarge that program so that our students who are career bound, and let's be honest, in some cases making a whole lot more money than us college folks, that they feel as though they are have just as much respect and value from the district as our college bound students. So there's going to be a lot of fun stuff and exciting news coming from that. And that is my superintendent report.
All right, I want to just recapitulate just one moment back on your teacher coaches. I know, and this is not to come and sin in any way. I remember when 2 years ago maybe we had what was it that we got rid of them?
Master teachers.
Master teachers. I thought it was a bad idea from the beginning, but I think they said it was because of money. But I'm gonna tell you this. I think as long as this board rises where we're at, if it comes to educating children, that ain't gonna ever happen.
Well, let me say this about money, because I know that on everyone's minds, the great thing about this initiative, a quarter of it would be funded by Title I federal dollars. $500,000 of this initiative would be funded by the state because they do matching funds for these types of positions. And that's a new initiative from Dr. Brumley. So only a very small amount, 25%, the other 25% would be funded from the general fund. And we are also looking at being better stewards of our current dollars so that we can ensure that we can make those funds come from general without any shortfall in any other area. So, this is a plan that wasn't on a whim, a week, 2 weeks. This has been months and months of discussions with Ms. Page, with Mr. Wascom, with our curriculum folks to say, okay, we want to do this. The research says we want to do this, but we can't just, I'd love to print money, but we can't do that. So how can we do this in a way that's responsible in our budget? And I think we've found a way to do that, and trust me, Mr. Wascom will call us to the carpet if we're not. So.
Thank you so much.
Reverend Harris, I think one more thing to add about the master teachers in the past, I'm not sure they were deployed correctly. And
I believe that.
I think they were used as overflow and absences and things like that, and they weren't deployed correctly. I I've got full confidence that the superintendent will make sure that doesn't happen.
So I know y'all love to hear me talk, but well, it's either me or Mr. Wascom, so just hold on tight. What you have to realize about these positions, a couple things. Number one, they will be sacred in the sense that principals have already been told, and we have Ms. French in the audience, and she knows I've already said this. These aren't going to be substitutes. They're not going to have duty. That they are going to be a district employee that's domiciled on the school campus. The other thing is that Mr. Gordy put this best for me. He said, you know, when you're an E1, E2, E3, E4 in the military, you're in the same unit. As soon as you become an E5, they ship you to a different unit because you can't fraternize with the rest of your folks. Although I'm not a military guy, I understand that ethos, and we're going to be executing the same thing because we don't want someone who's been friends with all their cohorts staying in that school and being with those same teachers. We want them to move and bring their expertise to a school that they can bring new life to, and vice versa at all these schools. So if you're at eLab and you apply for this job and we say, hey, you're amazing, you're great, we want you to do this, more than likely you may be out in Lakeview or you might be at Weaver, and vice versa for these other folks. So again, it's about doing it right, and it's about these people not thinking that they're going to be working hard. They're not special district personnel who get to kind of walk around and brag about being district personnel. They're going to be working hard, and they're going to be in the classrooms with these teachers and doing what needs to be done to move this district forward. Otherwise, there's no point in hiring them. So
they'll be basically hired from within the various schools.
well, we would actually do a, yeah, Ms. Page is saying, no, because realize we have a certified teacher shortage. So what we would like to do is we would cast a wide net. I've already talked to the local media about putting ads around in the local parishes, and we feel that we can pull folks from whether it be Red River or Wynn Parish, Grant Parish, Rapides Parish, wherever, who want to do something more, but they're in the classroom right now. And so would we want people from our own place? Of course, if they're good, but we also want the best and brightest that we can afford, because that's how important these positions are. And I think you can see the passion when I talk about these positions. I mean, they have to be the right people, and we're going to put a team together, and I don't care who you're related to or how long you've been in this district and it's your turn. It's the best people for the job, and it's got to be that. It's got to be apolitical. Otherwise, we're going to just put a whole bunch of people in positions that are just going through the motions.
But will our people be able to apply?
Of course.
Yes. Okay.
Yes, ma'am. And they will have equal chance. I mean, we're not going to
Just
say,
because they're in the system, y'all wanna keep them, y'all gonna give them a chance.
oh, yes, ma'am.
Okay.
All right. Some great things happening in our district. Mr. Danny.
Okay, item number one, take appropriate action on bids. I don't think we had any. I will be asking to, a change in the agenda for Thursday. We would like to ask for, the permission to bid on playground equipment to resurface and replace some gym floors, and then also the Renaissance,
Learning system.
So I'm sorry, but that's something that was clear. We need to get that through today. That will be added, asked to be added to the next agenda.
Also the accepting of the E-rate bids.
Well, that's coming up, I think.
Oh, it's on there, so.
Transportation report. Mr. Matthews here.
Good evening. How's everybody doing? No more updates. Definitely want to thank the parents of the parish, as always. Thank the board, the drivers, and the monitors, the team that needs this work every day. Any questions anybody have?
It's been very quiet on the busing front here lately.
Phone call.
That's a good thing.
Yes.
Mr. Matthews, can you make it not rain again?
Any questions? All right, thanks. Thank you. Well, let's address this on the agenda. This on the agenda here.
We have a schedule A there, consider approving updated right contract extension. What? Or
Yes, we have presented, let me get up here. We have presented in your paperwork there to extend the contract. Mr. Harris, I believe it was, no, or Billy, one of y'all had asked last month to take it over to Billy, to present it to our attorney. He looked it over. We made one little minor change, but it's pretty much as presented as last time. And so he did recommend that you guys go ahead and approve the extension. So we're presenting it at this time for permission to approve. This is a 5-year extension, and it's at a much better rate. So, and I've got Mr. Ryan Johnson here to answer any questions that might relate to that as well. I can tell you this, they've been great partners. And just a lack of questions, even after the bus got stuck, right, it was all over. We've not really much.
No, I think as long as we put in the contract, some of the buses need mud tires.
too much rain.
And when, so there was, also a personal thing posed by Mr. Latoya prior to you coming on board, Mr. Wascom, that we look at, bids from other companies and also at, the school board leasing before we make a decision about the extension.
So we actually included that in y'all's packet, I think it was last month. It had the Durham, it had the 4 major, market, big market bus companies, I guess that's what you call them. And all of those were significantly higher than their estimate. And that's whether we went the 3-year, 4-year, or 5-year contract. And I'll tell you, in my talks with other superintendents and other transportation directors, the model of the owner-operator or leasing model, and Mr. Wascom can add on to this, with us having to, we'd have to basically start from new, and you'd have to have, I mean, how many drivers do you have, Mr. Johnson?
Over 80.
Over 80 drivers. Those 80 drivers would have to purchase buses, and right now, I think the bus market is not good. Last I spoke, or the secondary market is not good.
Right.
And so what that means is you would face a very tall mountain to get that back in play. And the problem is financially the savings are not there where maybe it was 20, 30 years ago in that type of leasing owner-operator market. And we just don't think we'd be able to go from 6 owner-operators that we have now to probably 86 in the current economic climate. So we did look through all those, and this still seemed, and I'm sorry, you're the business director.
No, that's exactly right. Also, we looked at other bids. We also looked at the experience factor we had with 2 of the previous vendors and did not know if we wanted to return to that experience. So we looked at our experience in the last few years, even particularly in the last few months, and thought that this was our best option. Remember, these buses new cost about just under $100,000. So to find 80 people who could do that independently at this time is going to be a tough one. We currently would like to proceed on the way we're at now for the next few years. Once again, if there though becomes in the future in this extension some intolerable things that don't work out with Echo Ride, we can always cancel. We can always terminate the lease and move forward with another option. Okay?
Mr. Watson, can you, let me get closer to mine. For Thursday night, could you crunch the numbers on the Natchitoches Parish School System renting those 86 buses, hiring 86 drivers with benefits and wages, and what that would cost this board as opposed to?
We would also need an additional person here to manage all of that.
We need 3 people.
You need at least 3.
Well, at
But the
least
point
3
I'm trying
additional
to make
people.
is, I think Mr. McGuire is asking for the numbers, head to head. And so, in the interest of being transparent, could we do that and have it available for Thursday night?
So this is if they all went back to independent.
No, sir, as if the system rented the buses and had board drivers.
That's right,
We leased the bus from, say, Ross or somewhere, and we hired Ms. Page's gonna love this, hired 86 people, paid them and had a bench, we sure we'd have 90-something. And then, plus 3 people internally, plus wages, plus benefits.
We would need a bus barn repair to
That's
repair all
right.
these buses.
That's right, so what I'm saying is, head to head, we would like to look at those numbers, I think that's what Mr.
I think
McGuire's
that's,
desire was, he actually gave me a call on this morning. And, he was unable to make the meeting tonight, but I'd like to express his wishes.
okay.
And then I think, we talked about, the age of the buses. Will that change in the contract?
Yeah, so everything within the existing terms of the contract will remain. So throughout that 5-year period, additional buses will be purchased so that it maintains the average fleet age that we have from the original contract. So that's a great thing there.
And it's worth noting too, and it's obvious that I am a proponent of subcontracting this out. I'm not gonna make any bones about that. I think, I love our owner-operators, but in our modern times, it's an easier system that we have now with Echo. But I think it's important to note that one of the benefits of being with a company such as Echo is the age of the buses. I think on average right now, y'all are below 5 years.
Yeah.
And so when you see an Echo bus going down the road, it's always nice and that shiny yellow and everything. And one of the things with owner-operators is there's an older age on average with most of our owner-operators because they're independent contractors and it's just a different system. So that is one major benefit. And when we talk about age of buses, we are talking about safety of children and amount of time that a bus is broken down, things of that nature. So
I can't tell you also the amount of less headache it is on personnel in this office to just ask 1 or 2 people to manage it, all the day-to-day stuff that goes on with busing.
Well,
Instead
not
of-
only that, Mr. Deasley, can you help us with some of the average, we're looking at, we've got to look at average cost and things like that when it comes to either leasing or owner-operator. You've got a lot of sliding scales that have to be accounted for.
Well, and you got, you know, if they're gonna be employees of the Natchitoches Parish School Board, they're gonna have retirement. So that's a biggie. I'm just saying that, and I'm not saying it's right or wrong.
No,
I'm just, it's a cost that's gotta be reckoned with.
That's right. Like for instance, $500,000 worth of salaries cost us $833,000.
That's my point. Because you got retirement and insurance.
That's right.
And all that has to
Leave
be-
time and all that.
All that, and can you break that down line item by line item so we can just do a head-to-head comparison?
Okay.
Ultimately, it's gonna be bottom line, but we'd like to see, Mr. McGuire's expressed interest in seeing what this would actually cost us.
I think that's a reasonable request.
And yeah, and you'll have to do that as a, some kind of high, you know, some kind of level to look down on it, because you can't be perfect. I mean, it's-
Right.
nothing's perfect.
That'd be a lot of estimation.
Yeah, because the thing is that it's a whole lot less headaches on y'all right now, you know, once we have a good operator. And I want to, the experience that we're having with Echo is a good one, and y'all report that. I think that's important and very valuable.
No problem.
Yeah,
Thank you for that.
yeah, sure.
Thank you, Mr. Ryan.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Receive tax commission report, Mr. Washington.
Yes, and all that. We got good news on the sales tax front. I was concerned about November, just based on COVID. What you see before you is truly the sales of the month of November. So, you can look through all the rest. I always go to the one that says distributions. Let me get that one here, tax enhancement. Let's see, these are printed front and back, so the very last page. Okay, the very last page is the distributions. That's actually what was received here in office, okay? Our sales are the far corner that says difference percentage. The percentage of sales increase is 6.73. It was, you can see from the 1st of July all the way to, it was declining. Got to 6.1 and it started to go back up. That's a good sign that things are still maintaining And I've been already kind of told preliminary that December collections are looking really good. I would like to say that I think the championship round really helped retail as well as restaurant sales. That was a big deal, so that all impacts us and has done very well for us. So concerns about the economy and their COVID is we are still doing well with sales tax collections, and I'm really happy about that. That is not, we actually are going to have to report, but we're going to start the process next week of budget revisions. We would like to present that to you all at the March meeting. We now have what I think is a fairly secure expectation of sales tax increase of about around 6%. I'm going to estimate. I still want to be a little conservative on that, but this is a good thing, very good, because you know when I'm sure when last March when we moved into COVID, we were thinking it's catastrophic devastation on all our sales tax revenues, and it is a little bit. I would like to say while we're talking about revenues, well, our MFP 204 children have just disappeared into the Ethernet. I mean, just disappeared into the wilderness. So they did not go to other parishes or other states. This is a common practice. MFP money will be affected, but we might get some of it recovered with some stimulus money coming in. So the complete answer will take time to get back to y'all. 40 of these 204 have now been located, and as of the February 1st, so we just as of today or yesterday, that count will be, they will adjust again our MFP money.
Just to add on to that, statewide, if you include charter schools, private schools, and public schools, 17,000 students are not on the rosters from the previous year. So, and obviously if you go nationwide, you're going to see a much bigger picture. Public schools, it's around 14,000. That equals $67 million in MFP dollars that are not going to districts basically because of COVID. So
we're 1.1 billion.
Yeah. Of all the public schools in the state, there's only 4 districts that did not see a drop of some sort in MFP students. And I've talked to those superintendents, and they can't really tell you why they didn't see a drop. They just kind of got lucky in that. Grant Parish is one of them. It's a very rural parish, and they actually gained 4 students. So, yeah.
Very small.
So just to let you know, we will be presenting budget revisions. Pat, Chad, and I, my team back here in the back, they will be working with me over the next few weeks to make sure we get all the budget adjustments done. Okay? I'm really happy about sales tax collections.
That'll help offset some of the.
Yes, it will be. And then I presented some increases in revenues in our December meeting, which is also very helpful on all this.
Number 4, we'll see budget update right behind it.
All right. Y'all all have it. It's the one with the yellow lines on it here. Okay. So the budget that was adopted is in the first column, of course, but as far as helpfulness, as I've said in the past, last year's budget's in the second column, and the actual year to date at the same point in time is in the third column. So you can see our revenues in our general fund are about where they are, where they were at the same time last year. Our expenses are slightly down. But let's look at child nutrition. Once again, this should be an area that I'm going to call attention to y'all, so it's not like an area of concern. Revenue is about half of what it was this time last year. This has, Shauna is here to speak to that. I will go ahead and say to y'all that I'm in touch with FEMA. I'm working with Michelle Demery. FEMA is going to, I told y'all at one point that the insurance company was going to reimburse us, and they found some thing that they said didn't qualify. However, FEMA is going to put us on a rapid pay and pay us the whole $96,000 for the losses of food in our warehouses. It qualified. So that has already been sent in, and they said that they would have that money to us. That will reduce these expenses by the amount of money, because it built into the expenses of purchasing, which is, I assume, the second line up from the bottom. that 439,000, 96,000 of that was buying the product and then buying it again after it had spoiled. That money will be, that expense line will be reduced by 96,000 once it's received from FEMA. This is a godsend. But we have overspent at this point in time roughly $420,000 in revenues in this area. About 100,000 of that of expenses will be reduced. But we do have hope that in the second stimulus, have they addressed, have we heard word about whether they're gonna address that?
So the second and just to give you all an idea, the second stimulus, the only thing we've heard, besides, you know, some very bureaucratic details that really don't matter, is that we're gonna get anywhere from 3.5 to 4 times what we got last time, which if you recall, last time was close to, it was $2.9 million, so we're looking possibly at $12 million of federal funds from what they call ESSER 2. And then we also have another stimulus coming, which we have no clue how much that'll be, but they're saying it will be comparable to that. That 12 million, there's a wide range of things that can be spent on. One of the categories is things related to COVID-19. We believe that this will be one of those things that can be recouped. We just have to wait basically for the state. The state, even at this point, doesn't fully know how the money can be spent because they haven't given it to us yet. But they'll be giving us guidance, and we very much feel that it's a good bet that we'll be able to recoup these funds through that. So it should be good news.
Okay. Now on the second page, Title I. And once again, the revenue has to do with the overflow and stimulus money, the first stimulus money that was not fully spent by the end of June, so that it flows over into our budget year. So it's about $300,000 higher. Expenses are equally $300,000 higher. So that has to do with the COVID stimulus. Anyhow, okay. Are there any other questions about that?
I have a question about the bond money for repairing the schools or fixing up the schools.
I was gonna get to that,
Oh,
but sure,
go
that's
ahead.
fine.
No, go ahead.
We're through with that, and if we have time, I'll be glad to deal with the bond money. I'm getting ready to hand all this to y'all, but before the next meeting. But I was gonna give you the list of everything that's on it tonight. I'll verbally tell y'all.
Okay.
So Russ, can I move forward with that? Sure. Okay. I got with the engineer last Wednesday it was, and that was Yeager and Watson, and we sat down at this table here, and what we did was went over in detail what had been spent. So when the problem is some of it's obsolete. Actually, Mike COVID had actually fixed some of the things that were on this list with BRE money. So that money gets freed up. Other monies didn't cost as much. So let me give you the list of the buildings and the HVAC has all been completed. And let me get back to some of the things that are on the list with all the schools. The intercom system, there are a few that still have yet to be put in. We'll get those finished out. All the carpet throughout our entire city schools will be replaced. All the restrooms in every one of our schools will be completely gutted and rebuilt.
And no more carpet.
No more carpet anywhere. The only carpet in our district will be what we're actually standing on right now. That will be but in our schools, the carpet will have been switched over to VCT tile. Okay. And then roof repair actually in this, so the restrooms being completely updated, there are literally 44 restrooms in Vaughn. There's an equal number in Magnet. There's a lot of restrooms that we have, because we usually have 2 classrooms and a restroom in between. So each one of these restrooms will be rebuilt, and this is all brought up to current handicap standards. So that's a really good thing. If you've gone to Natchitoches Junior High, that's already happened there. Okay. Natchitoches Junior High is the only school on here that's basically complete. There are roof allowances up here, but actually we've got funding for that through FEMA, so we don't really need to use that money. That money gets freed up. Updating security fencing. I would like to say that Dr. Eloy and I have toured the place. We're trying to get away from the chain link fence. So if it's on the back of the, like for instance, Vaughn has some issues of security on the back. There's a train tracks back there. We want to put a fence up in case somebody runs towards the train, which actually has happened. And we want to get all that, but we'll put regular chain link fence. But wherever it's visible out in front of our buildings, we're going to use a different product, trying to make it look really nice. A good example of this is Northwestern took their football field, and I don't know if y'all remember actually, but it had chain link fence around it, and they switched to the existing, basically post and wrought iron look. So it is still secure, but it is a different look, and it dresses it up. And we would not really focus on that in the areas that are in the back, that are not, public viewing, so to speak. But, and in many cases, like, there's really not that much. They got a budget in some of these cases, $67,000 for fencing. It's not gonna take but $20,000 to do it. So, the gym floors, there's a little bit, I've had a lot of questions. I was hired. I have enough money to fix 6 gym floors. I actually have money in Marthaville. We're going to replace the old gym, and then we're going to do a lot on some of the other gyms in our city schools. We're going to sand and refinish. So I've been like two that will just get repolished. Some will be sanded and refinished entirely. Goldana will be one because I can use some of the new BRE money for Goldana, Reverend, to basically sand. There's a lot of cupping, what they call cupping in the gym floor. That'll all be sanded flat and smooth and made to where when you bounce the basketball, it doesn't take off in a different direction you expected it to, which is actually what's happening now.
I think we did it at the junior high side of Lakeview.
That's correct. That was all. Well, I think that was actually what I call it. They just basically re-screeded. In some cases, the floors are so bad, we're going to actually sand them down. They haven't been touched in about 40 years. There's been no love shown to some of these schools, particularly like M.R. Weaver. It's just really dark. They haven't really actually had any work done. When these are done, they're going to look like brand new gym floors because they've actually had a little bit sanded off of them.
Right.
And then they repaint all the lines, and they can put our new logos in the center of the court and make it all look really nice.
What about Fairview? Are they on there?
Fairview would have to be handled under the new BRE funds, and then I still need to get with you, Mr. Garner, and the principals to meet about the additional BRE funds to start scheduling some of that. But that would not be under this bond. So when I email this out, it's really for the city schools when I email this out to everybody, okay?
One more thing, and I know this is coming later about the magnet school. I don't think that they are at this particular time ready for the pre-K.
We've actually
LP fund.
we've already demoed 2. We're already removing the carpet in 2 rooms. We're going to re-tile and repaint. First grade then moves into then 4, that frees up 2 that they vacated, and then 2 other rooms that are currently vacant to use as storage will then be remodeled. That will be new VCT, repaint and redress any kind of issues. Also, we need playground equipment in the pre-K area, and then fence that playground equipment in. That's all part of the requirements.
Right.
And we should have all that completed by July.
Okay.
That will all be completed. We've been on that. We've already had Michael Jocelyn organizing with the contractor. They've already done some demoing, and we've got that moving. Now that we're actually working on that ahead of this. I did not know that. Honestly, did not know that carpet removal and tile replacement was throughout the whole thing. All I've heard was Natchitoches Central it was scheduled. I did not know it was scheduled throughout the entire district until I sat down with the engineer on Wednesday, that this is all scheduled. We have money for all this. I will tell you this, that we've had economic savings with bids, that building, with the city schools, we have about around $1.5 million worth of monies that we can still, at our discretion, find ways to use on other things.
Amazing.
So, now these have to be things like refixing buildings.
Right.
But this adds to, our ability to make it look better. So, we're thinking about like power washing all the buildings, right? Which they've got that black goo coming off the roof, and we get all that. Also fixing our perimeter lighting. When we changed out the light bulbs in the schools, we only did it on the inside. This Broadway brought up how Natchitoches Central has lighting issues, and she's right, it's just jet black, and when you drop off kids in this one particular area. I realized that actually the problem's more extensive than she brought up. It's all the way around the new facilities. There's no parking lot lighting that has been scheduled to be put in. We have now scheduled that with the engineers to get put in. Essentially, it's a change order to the Natchitoches Central project. But when I hand this list to you guys, if it's in blue, it's complete. If it's in pink, is a part of phase 2. This one includes all the bathrooms, it's all the schools. And if it's yellow, we take care of it. So going to kitchen equipment, almost all of our tilt skillets, all of our steamers are old, and are being replaced. Once again, we had just replaced one of our steamers when we realized, wait a minute, it's on this list. So we were able to reclassify the funding, take it out of VRE funds and put it underneath the bond. But, and there's also a dramatic amount of savings. The camera systems were only like half as expensive as scheduled. So all this frees up some funds. This is where we can get money to expand orchestra or band or whatever is at the discretion of the superintendent and his group of people who are going to make the decisions about how best to do this. So this will allow us to actually work with the music and the arts better.
Mr. Watson, board had directed, well, we got started with the prior business manager. Parking lot at LP Bond, we were gonna gravel in and make sure it was sturdy enough. And because we have too many teachers for the amount of parking, I think Ms. Palmer also had brought this up too. Has that been done? And
It is not.
Is there funding to fix?
There is, if I put it on the list, I have a list that's pretty, once we finally got to the principals and started showing them around, they came up with a lot of things that they need. So we have a long list.
Potential to make this a much better situation.
Correct, we do have the funds. The problem is that just getting it scheduled, and is it something we handle in-house or do we use the engineers? And something like that, I would rather use the engineers to manage, because I don't want to become a general contractor myself, or but like to install a kitchen tilt skillet is something that we can manage in-house, things like that. But I will be speaking. The reason I didn't want to hand this to you today is some of this stuff is obsolete. We will manage it with the engineer tomorrow morning at 9:30. We'll get it updated, and I like to email it out so it's in y'all's hands by the next meeting. And if anybody asks about it, particularly if you're representing the city schools, Ms. Palmer, you can actually have a list of what's scheduled and roughly when it will happen, when it will be fixed.
But I have a question
Certainly.
regarding Natchitoches Junior High, around their track and field. That land where all those trees, I don't know if you know, is that
We were hoping to, are you talking about the tree, the problem with the pine needles?
trees?
just it's the trees that's covering all the way around Natchitoches, the track and field, and it goes to the back, but.
You're talking about on the outside of the track, not as you're walking to the track, that little patch of pine trees?
Backside.
Yeah, not those.
Okay.
Not those, but yeah, that fence line, like where the bleachers are, and then you have trees behind the bleachers. Is that our property? And
It is.
can that be cleared? Because that is kind of like a safety issue.
Well, the biggest thing is this dropping pine needles, and the acid from the needles is going to start, we got a brand new track, it's gonna start eating through our track. So we would like to schedule it for cutting, to actually cut the ones right against the fencing that are blowing needles on our track, at least cut those down.
Well, even the ones on the back of the bleachers, and also like, I walked back there, well, I haven't been back there lately, but because they said, because of those trees, wild hogs are back there.
Wild hogs?
Yeah.
Really?
Okay.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, I didn't believe it either, but when I was driving back there, maybe like a week later, I saw a wild hog dead between outpatient clinic and the track. So I was just, inquiring about if we could get
If
that.
they come from across the road there, they did.
Yeah, I'm thinking maybe they're coming from across the highway.
Because it's pretty big.
And then, but in the back of the junior high, there's a lot of woods and everything,
Well,
trees and things that.
We actually thought, you were talking about that patch of trees because we're actually talking
We're
to
talking about
Dr.
patch of trees too.
Yeah, those
Clear
tall
those so we
trees.
can put a backstop for both softball and baseball over there, cause they have.
As a practice, as a practice.
As a practice, yeah, not a
Strictly as a
full-
practice field.
but,
Yeah, and how far does the land go that belongs to the parish, Natchitoches School Board? Goes
Okay,
back?
that's a good question, I don't know that one. I think it actually goes all the way to the highway, I do. There's railroad tracks there, and then there's the highway. So I don't know if it goes to the railroad tracks, because I know railroad tracks, they donated that land plus an easement on either side of the railroad track. So I don't know, I bet we at least go to that point, but on the other side of the railroad tracks, I'm not sure if we own it. There's a lot of land, and one of these days I wanna present to y'all that we own. And, we own a great deal of land in all these locations, and I just want y'all to make y'all aware of it.
Well, can you look into maybe like getting all that trimmed down?
Just to let y'all know, that it takes $1,800 to drop a tree, generally, somewhere between $1,000 and $1,800 for one tree. So we'll have to, unless they timber it, but I'm not sure they'll timber it. So it's expensive to do all that. I'll look into that, but if you would like me to put it on the schedule, we certainly can.
It'd be more beneficial to timber it out for us, for the board.
Yeah, but the thing is, a timber company is not gonna get in there unless they have a certain volume, and I'm not sure this little skinny patch of trees. Yeah, they wouldn't.
We can just all go up there this weekend.
Bring it up.
Mr. Watson,
Yes, ma'am.
when do you think is a good time to issue a press release to the public to update them on where we are so far with all of these projects?
While we're talking, I've just had one text me that they want a copy of this list. Since this is public and I'm presenting it in a public fashion, it becomes public. If you would, I would like to get the updated, get rid of the obsolete items and get like some of the, for instance, I'll give you an example. NSU, Middle Lab and East Lab, we were to provide computer systems and the smart boards, these things here. That came in, the budget was $413,000, it came in at $220,000. So that frees up $200,000. So then we can sit there and allocate that money to other things.
Right.
And so, but like Middle Lab needs a new desk, so we're gonna sit there and try to allocate money for that. So it's a lot of work, but this is kind of a bit of, quite frankly, a bit of a surprise that it was in this great detail, and I just had not had access to it.
I think if I'm right, Ms. Phelps, you're saying maybe a more polished press release. Y'all are getting this
Right.
spreadsheet, but we could maybe work with Ms. Paris to put something out that kind of.
I would at least like
a little bit.
I'd at least like to make the public aware of how we're using their bond funds and what's next and what they can expect over the next few years. Because the second phase of doing all these bathrooms, for instance, it's gonna at least be a year's worth of work just at one school. Because you know, like I say, at Vaughn, it's like 44 bathrooms. And so, that's gonna take a contractor a good bit of time to finish. However, I'm excited, but I want people to understand we're using their money wisely.
Right.
So I'll be glad to do that. But I think we do need to present something that everybody can go to our website and understand what's happening. But once again, I want to remind, it's just the city schools of District 9. Okay.
You did say that all the bathrooms at the junior high have been completed, the additional
At the junior high,
bathrooms?
yes ma'am, I inspected those and did a little checklist the other day with those. We have occupancy of those bathrooms.
I just wanna say again, I'm very impressed. If, Eugene and I'm not trying to condescend on nobody, but I'm just saying, if Eugene and I had you, doing our project, we probably would have saved a whole lot of money too. So,
We would definitely
Mr.
appreciate the
Nine,
work you do.
I want y'all to know, he's looking, he's watching, he's saving money to do good things with, and so kudos.
Appreciate that.
Well, I think we all hold a responsibility that if we raised $19,750,000 in that bond a couple of years ago. I think we need to make sure the public understands we put it to effective use, so that if we ever go and ask again, they know that the money was spent well.
That's right.
I think that's a responsibility we all in this room have.
Okay. So I will get this list to you guys before the next board meeting on that. I would like to just take a moment, Russ, if I may, and bring your eyes to this over here. These are the new pictures. Do y'all remember the 3 red framed ones in the back?
Absolutely.
They have been removed. I threw them in the dumpster. These are the new ones. Now, what this shows you is the parish, and these 2 bigger ones are the voting districts as they are divided up. So, for instance, Miss Broadway's the one in yellow, and then Russ is the one in blue, and Neil's is the one in pink at the bottom, and I think Mr. Garner, yours is actually physically almost one of the biggest ones there.
I know that.
Okay, so then the city is so detailed that the picture in the middle is a blow up of the division of the districts in the city. This was provided to us by the tax assessor. We got them all nice, beautifully colored, and everything looks very nice and very big. The one at the end is the breakdown of our districts as they are with taxing, how we tax people, okay? And it's very important that everybody know that. Even though Reba represents District 6 is how she was elected, Consolidated 6 is actually down at the bottom of the parish. and so there's always this confusion and everything, so this is very detailed. I want everybody to be aware of it. So we've retired the 40-year-old ones in the back, and these are the newest and latest ones.
Did you do the framing yourself?
What's that?
Did you do the framing yourself?
I did not. I actually got the lady on Front Street to do it. Name is Debbie with King River Gallery. So anyhow, this is just important for y'all to know, and it's good to have it updated. So. Okay, what's next on the agenda?
Maintenance activity.
Today I have Mr. Jocelyn with me.
Oh, good.
So I'd like to bring him up, and this is Michael Jocelyn.
Well, good afternoon, everybody.
Good afternoon.
And a lot of you, I understand, haven't met me, don't know who I was, and here I are. First off, I want to tell you, I'd like to thank Mr. Wascom, and I'm not going to sound any more condescending than Mr. Harris has. I don't want to sound like that, but I've got support now that I've never had since I've been in this seat for the school system. And thank you very much for that support I've needed. The maintenance team is beginning to work much better and more efficiently, and so that's where we're at. This maintenance activity summary is just a minor little piece of what we do, and it's kind of thrown together based on work orders, based on purchases made, different things that we've had to do to get things done in the schools to help everybody out. Now, my job kind of plays between maintenance and some of the upgrade business. I'm in contact with the contractors and we get the roofs fixed. I deal with store services. I'm sure everybody's heard of store services, what they do to maintain the HVAC systems. They're very professional, they do a real good job. I used to work for Store myself, and I'm proud of what they do. I'm proud of how we're getting that done. I don't know if you really want me to go down the line and read these things line for line. Each school has something different. One of the biggest issues that we're having right now with food service equipment is in this inner city schools because of the water, Natchitoches water. It is so bad. We keep filters stopped up all the time. That combined with old food service equipment that's wore out keeps us moving pretty regularly. And I'm glad to see that we're going to be able to get some of this food service equipment replaced here in the inner city with new equipment. Goldana's got basically new equipment. Natchitoches Junior High already has basically new equipment. There are some steamers been purchased in other places that you probably be able to move that money around somewhere else now because we've got new steamers that have already been purchased. But here we go. I like the fact that they give me the opportunity to help purchase this equipment so that I know that when we get the equipment in the lunchrooms, we got stuff that is good quality and we get the right thing. There's been a few times when things got purchased that I didn't know anything about, I didn't see the specifications on them, and one of them, for instance, was a steamer that was to drive. It was a steamer in the kitchen, and that particular one had a kettle pot that had to be driven from the steamer. But when it was ordered, it wasn't ordered with the power to take off to drive that kettle pot, so we had to go back and to buy the additional parts to make it work. I've seen this happening along, and I'm doing my best to keep my fingers on it and stop it from happening. And it's not just food service equipment. We saw things with the upgrades on the HVAC systems. Things that engineers just left out for whatever reason. Try to keep my fingers on those things so that as we move forward, that's what I'm trying to do, is help with that as well as keep the maintenance team going. We've learned something real good about patching potholes. Got a new material. Mr. Wascom turned me on to it, got some of it. It works. It literally does work. And for the first time, I think you've got a pothole patch material that will hold out until we can get some parking lots resurfaced. Bathroom issues. You know, we're talking about all the bathrooms and all this, because we've got lots and lots and lots of plumbing work orders. And most of them get taken care of from in-house, the small ones. We are having some plumbing issues. We have had some plumbing issues. Recently over at Weaver, we backed up the whole school. It turned out to be the city's problem out in the middle of the street. It wasn't us, and we didn't have to hire a plumber to help with that either. What I'm doing is exercising discernment on what we can do ourselves and what I have to hire outside to do. Because there's some things just bigger than what the maintenance guys can do. And we've learned that, and so I'm spending that money as frugally as I can to try to maintain and get a good quality product out of it.
Mr. Johnson.
There are, yes, sir.
Okay. I think, last month, month before last, Mr. Benefield wanted to know, I think it was him, he wanted to know about the filters. And they were saying something about we are ordering filters from different places because they were not like synchronized with the filters.
Now, are we talking about air filters or?
No, I'm talking about water filters.
No, water filters. We get the water filters from 2 or 3 different sources. And what has happened, this pandemic deal caused some problems with, these filters are 3M filters. And they cause problems with manufacturing. Then that caused problems with getting them shipped out on time. And so we were able to maintain, and we moved to a different kind of filter for a while that is not as good and efficient a filter, but it's what we could get. And now we're back in the saddle with getting those. And I didn't strike that off of there because I wanted to bring that up. Those things actually didn't ship on the 15th of January like it says on here they were going to. They didn't ship until 2 weeks later, which we're just now getting to flow in. But we're getting them. So that was an issue, and it went all the way back. Pandemic struck 3M down, and here we go. Anything else, I really don't know. We got lots of little projects going on, and Lee just gives me the go ahead and take care of that, and then I'll do the best I can to take care of that. So with that, I don't have much of a maintenance report other than what you can read here, and this is probably a little too detailed, knowing that we got a lot of plumbing problems because we have old plumbing fixtures and old plumbing pipes and in old schools, and it's gonna be there until it's renovated.
We are glad that you started doing this report. It really helps out. There's been a lot of questions over the past about that, so that gives us an idea every month what's going on in each school.
Well, there's been some things, quite a few things, in fact, in the past that's fallen through the cracks, and I'm trying to get those things caught up and those things cleared up, and so that's where we're at right now with that, doing what we can do with it. Anybody got any questions for me?
Do you happen to know where we are at Provençal on that storm damage on the roof?
We're not there yet.
Okay.
We're waiting on some prices on sheet metal. the guys looking for that. We were gonna try to match it. And now we have changed, I think we're gonna replace some other parts along with it so that it does match with a better quality material to begin with. Try to match that stuff, and it's old and obsolete, and it's hard to find a matching sheet metal to take care of those things. So that's where we're at with that.
Good thing it's on the back of the school.
It's on the back of school, yeah, but we're gonna replace that whole mess with something that's of a better quality, and it won't matter whether it matches the front or not, because you can't see them both at the same time anyway.
Okay. Thank you.
Anybody else? Lee?
Just real quick, the hurricane damage, we do have Mr. Choya moving around to each of the schools, still fixing, it's a lot of damage. A hurricane, Laura, probably caused about $1.4 million worth of damage. 1.2 was to the roof, all throughout. And the vast majority of the damage actually happened in Natchitoches Junior High. And so we had him scheduled to do emergency patches, like for instance, if you have water pouring onto your gym floor, if you don't get it fixed now, you gotta replace your gym floor. So the idea was to create a priority list. I worked with Mr. Jocelyn, working with the vendor to get all that fixed in time. So we feel like still moving around, like we have a bus awning at LP Vaughn. That limbs just came right through the top, went straight through it, and it's still there. So if it's raining, it's gonna pour, but matching up the tin and getting it ordered. We're having also vendor delays, which is a nationwide problem with them delivering on time. We had ordered some new doors at Natchitoches Junior High to be replaced, and that was, 3 months ago we ordered them. No, they shouldn't take 3 months to come in, and they're just now coming in. So some of the delays that we're getting or having are the fact that this is just a nationwide problem in construction, in the construction industry as well. But the biggest thing is to get the roofs fixed. So we'll send Mr. Choi over to one roof to fix 3 leaks, even though there's 10. We'll fix 3 critical ones, and then we'll send them to other schools to get that done. That's pretty much complete. I feel at this time now it's going back and fixing them in a big way. But once again, FEMA should be somewhere between 80 and 100% refund on all that money spent to do that. Listen, I'll have breakdown once I hear, but every time we get on the phone with FEMA, they have somebody else new we're talking to. And so it's just a matter of getting through it all. I can tell you that February 11th is my last day to submit damage to it.
That ain't long ago.
No, it's not. It's just a couple of days off. Okay?
Thank you, Lee.
Thanks, sure.
Thank you so much, Mr. Johnson.
Yes, sir. See y'all Sunday.
Thank you. Okay, next on the list, I guess, is Miss Hicks. Shauna?
As she's coming to the podium, I just want to say that we have a lot of employees that have been doing a lot of amazing things and work really, really hard. And we currently do not have an Employee of the Month system, although we should probably look into that. But if we were to award that right now, it would be to Ms. Hicks and all the food service workers. I just want to highlight super quick the fact that Ms. Hicks and her team, COVID is a pain in the rear to everyone, and that's probably putting it mildly. But when you quarantine a cafeteria, it throws every bit of logistics haywire. And what Ms. Hicks and her team, Ms. McCoy, Ms. Gallion, and all her team, I hope I'm not missing anyone, has done in the past 3 weeks has been nothing short of, they're just all servant leaders. So I can't say enough about what they've done. She has said yes when every fiber of her being wanted to say no. Even when, she knows I'm sitting in my office doing whatever it is I do, and she's slopping Farmer Jones special, and she's probably thinking bad things in her head, but she still does it with a smile. And so 1,000% from myself and this board, I cannot thank you enough for feeding our students.
Well, and I do apologize for not having a more detailed report on the budgetary issues. I think Mr. Wascom has covered most of that. And on a personal note, I would like to thank Ms. Gallion and Mr. Alonzo Johnson have worked side by side with me. And since December 14th, we have kept 4 schools open. by going in and keeping those cafeterias open, which means that our students can be face-to-face with their teachers and they're not having to pivot to virtual learning, which we know we can do, but we would always prefer to have them in their school if that's possible. So I cannot say enough about our staff. Ms. Valerie McCoy has run that office by herself because we have been at schools all over the parish. It has been a crazy time, but we are more than happy to do it. Very happy to do it. And of course, on a financial note, if the cafeteria is operating, that helps us close that gap that we're experiencing right now between our revenue and expenses. That's really all I have unless anyone has a question for me.
Great job.
Thank you.
Nothing but good things.
Thank you.
Item number 7, consider approving a resolution ordering calling special elections to be held in the Consolidated School District number 8 of the parish of Natchitoches and Consolidated School District number 10 of the parish of Natchitoches to authorize the renewal of special taxes. Washington.
Yes, in January, I gave Red a notice, and it's that we would vote on a resolution which is also included in your packet. And this is to have the election this April 24th. This is the renewal of the BRE funds, okay? And we would like to have this approved so we can get it down to Baton Rouge.
Do we need to read this Thursday night resolution? Yes, you do. I'm thinking
It's a long one, but yes, I guess so.
Well, look,
I think
if we have to do it, we'll do it.
Hey, we can do it.
Somebody a little bit more eloquent at reading than me, please.
Okay, we will do that Thursday night.
Okay.
And item number 8, consider approving coordinated funding request.
It's Ms. Anderson.
Ms. Anderson.
Good afternoon. For those who do not know me, my name is Cassandra Anderson. I'm the supervisor for early childhood, migrant and ELF at the Media Center. And we are also the lead agency, and the lead agency simply means that we are the fiscal agent for Head Start, public school, and child care centers of the portion of the money that the State Department allocates to us. And we are there to make sure that the class observations are done in a timely manner, okay? So every year we have to let everyone know that we have a funding request, and this year we have basically the same number of seats. So Bulletin 140 states that the lead agency, which is Natchitoches Parish School Board, shall provide the opportunity for the community to comment and look at the proposal that we have before you. Basically, we are going to ask for the same amount of seats that we asked for last year, and this is just LA4 seats. So we have different funds for our early childhood program. We have LA4, we have Title I, we have 8G, Head Start. They have their program, and we just recently we were approved for the preschool development grant, and that is to help make sure that our birth through 3-year-old students have somewhere to go, and it's free child care assistance for them for an entire year. So we want to continue to do that this year. And last year, for the preschool development grant, we were awarded 25 seats for our child care centers. We're asking for a little bit more seats. That doesn't mean that we're going to get it, but we are ambitious, and so we ask for more. And so if they provide the seats to us, we will give those seats to our child care centers. And our child care centers were given a rubric, and that's how we rated who was going to get what seats. So they had to have lesson plans, and they had to do observations and different things. So they had a rubric that they had to meet. And based on the rubric, that's how we determined how many seats we were giving to each of the child care centers. And I see that there's a proposal at the bottom, and I didn't know whether or not I needed to even go there. But we wanted to place additional seats in our public school, and this is for the 4-year-old students. Want to make sure that we have a vast majority of our 4-year-olds, because our 4-year-olds are being served. But if we can provide free education to our 4-year-olds, and then it just trickles down with our 3s and to birth. We know that brain development starts at an early age. And we're trying to get these students before they get to 3rd grade and have to have remediation. So that's our main purpose of having these seats for our children. So basically, I needed you guys to look at this proposal and just consider approving our coordinated funding request. And we're gonna put this in our super app for our early childhood section. And the super app is due, I think, the middle in February, it's the mid-February. So we wanted you to look at the proposal, and if you have any questions or comments, I just wanted to, give you the opportunity to ask.
This is not the proposal, is it?
That is the proposal. That's not the entire proposal. That's an excerpt. This is just telling you how many numbers, or how many seats, and seats are just like students.
Right.
How many students we're going to have in each classroom.
So is it just going to be a proposal for LA4 and B3?
Yeah, the preschool development grant. Yes.
Okay.
And if you hear, or if you see on our website, the preschool development grant, we thought scholarship sounded a little bit more, upbeat. So we call it the scholarship as well. So that's synonymous to that grant. So it's just, the Title I, the 8G is totally different, but our LA4 is where the vast majority of our children are, children/teachers are paid out of.
Is the request a big, is it a lot of pages or something? No. So is there any way that we can get that?
You have I can give you it's a spreadsheet. I can definitely give you that spreadsheet. It asks a series of questions, and then it has that, but I can definitely get you the spreadsheet if you would like that as well.
Okay.
Mike can just send it email.
Right, that would be
Yeah,
good,
I will.
so they can
I will.
approve it, so they can know what they're approving.
Yeah.
That's all the reason I had.
Okay.
Russ, there's one thing I need to cover.
Thank you, Ms. Anderson.
Thank you.
We had asked for permission to do a bid at our last meeting with E-rate. We would like to present to y'all the results of that bid opening and have that approved by our next, on Thursday's meeting.
Oh.
And
on here?
It's gonna be on Thursday.
Okay,
it'll
cool.
be on the Thursday. But I have, not Mike COVID, but Mike Jose. And I'm sorry about that, Mike. I would like to share with y'all, once again, there's 2 categories to the bids that we're asking for y'all to approve. And it's category 1, which is the trunk line, a fiber optics line making its way to Goldana. Now, E-rate will be paying 90% of this. But we have also found funding that our matching 10% has also been funded by another grant. So now, with no cost to, what's that? Stimulus money. So, I'm gonna hand it off to Mike.
And it was in the Natchitoches Parish Journal.
Yeah.
Yes.
So yeah, category 1 is WAN and internet, which connects all our schools together and then also sends us up to the rest of the world. Our current partner, Unity Fiber, is by far our better choice of the 2 bids that we did receive on that. I would print out these bid packets and give them to y'all, but that one in particular is about 30 pages long and it's almost completely technical jargon. So I spared you the time and letting you know. I'll email it to you if y'all would like, but
Just send us a.
on Thursday I'll present our scoring rubric on how we graded the 2 of them. So
I do know I've been bugging the heck out of him, but I appreciate all the work you've done on this. And
Not a problem.
Mr. Watson too, and I will be asking y'all to support this Thursday night and help us move forward on this project. It means a lot to the community and the school and all that.
So basically, the way the E-rate works is they're coupons from the federal government, if you will. When it comes to internet and WAN resources, they basically will pay 90%. So we get to do something like run fiber to Goldana, which the bid came back at $750,000. And on top of that, we're only responsible for 10%. So our financial obligation there is about $75,000. And with that, we can also break it up into 4 interest-free payments over the course of 4 years. And that $75,000 is also being covered by federal stimulus money coming out of the next round. So out of the general fund, it is going to cost $0 to run fiber internet all the way to Goldana. Category 2 is the other one I'm going to ask you all. It's not as glamorous as fiber internet. That's all the switching and Wi-Fi stuff that we use within our local networks. Basically, we get an 85% coupon on those items. And how the E-rate program works is every 5 years we have to accept a bid from a contractor. And basically it books us into a price on line items, what we'll pay for the next 5 years if we purchase through the E-rate program. We're locked into that vendor with that contractor. Those pamphlets are even more technical jargon, and they're about 60 to 70 pages long each, so I also spared you those, but I will provide you all with the scoring rubric on that. But that one basically it just comes down to us trying to evaluate which of these vendors we feel will A, be the best partner, and B, provides the best value on the items that we're most likely to actually order out of that giant list of possible things we'll need. Any questions?
Super.
Oh, and they'll, according to the vendor, they will be ready to light up that fiber by July 1st.
Wow.
Good. That's gonna be awesome.
Yeah.
Appreciate it, man.
This, well, part of the importance is that for the children who are virtual, we will provide areas at our schools which we're currently providing. This will speed that up where they can come there and be on Wi-Fi.
Right.
And it won't, because out in the rural communities, it's kind of hard to get that service.
And it's so, at this pivotal point, it's desperately important that we have the speed for those kids out there in those rural areas.
We can also remove our microwave system that we're using now, and we will receive a savings for not needing to continue on with that in time.
Right.
So, okay, Russ, I'm sorry, that's last. All right, thank you.
Thank you. All right. Ms. Page, personnel.
We're still holding our own. As we lose, we replace, and that's good. That's good. Ms. Tankia, Ms. Palmer asked for a job description at the last meeting for our nurse. And you're welcome. We looked at it, Ms. Fredo and I looked at it and added and changed and rearranged, and then my new laptop and my new contacts would let me be great. So it's a little bit off up there on the job bone, but we'll get that corrected. So if you would just look at that, and let me know if you have any questions or comments.
I have a very basic question. Will she still have a job after COVID?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. And in case y'all didn't hear me last month, thank you. Thank you for her.
I think now that she's on, you get 2 hours of sleep a night instead of just the one.
We are actually chatting, we were chatting at 8 o'clock Sunday night.
Appreciate you. Very good job.
Okay, so as far as our report, do you have any questions about it? The personnel report? one more thing, I noticed that someone, I think it might have been Pastor Harris saying something about the ultimate level of going out. It made me think about some of the people we have in the district. And so, at some point later on in the year, I would like to have some of the people that we've grown here to come before the board so you can see. We have an educator in particular who has given us two of the most amazing employees. So we're talking a mother and her daughters. And we have a young lady here that was recruited by me during Student of the Year. Ms. Phelps can attest to that. And she is now one of our teachers. And so it just doesn't get much better than that. We have a husband and wife team here and there, as you know. We have people who were tutors, then moved to Paris, and then moved to teachers, and some started in other areas and changed to education. So it is happening, and like I said, I'd like to present them to you at some point.
That's absolutely marvelous.
Okay, thank you.
Yes.
Any questions?
Are we okay with our virtual teachers?
Are we okay?
Yes, we have a sufficient number to meet the need.
Yes, ma'am.
Because there's been a reduction with kids coming back
Right.
in person.
It is a real struggle, but I tell you, Mrs. Pinckney has, I can't tell you enough about that. I mean, we're just so proud of our team at this point. Everybody is going above and beyond as far as we can tell. I won't say most people are going above and beyond. So whatever it is that needs to be readjusted, it's happening. It may take us a day or two or a week or a month, but we're working on it. I'm really working, trying.
And we thank you all.
I tell you, I got a good report. I think I told Dr. Elo about it. Miss Tam over at the junior high. I guess she works as a liaison between the parents, the teachers, and the student to make sure that those virtual students are getting everything they need. And she stays on whoever she needs to stay on. And they called me and told me that, look, she makes sure that the people who are supposed to be educating those children, that they do their job.
We have a lot of that.
Yeah.
Despite what you might read in here, we have a lot of that. We have the most phenomenal people, and it's the majority. It is the majority. Okay. Thank you.
All right. I know we got our honorable parish president here. We're gonna go ahead and let you.
Okay. I promise to be fast.
Take your time. Listen, the reason I believe that in your committee meetings you can take your time, because when we come to Thursday, we ought to go through this, because we ought to be done our lessons and things like that. The committee meetings is
So, consider approving virtual expulsion student plan. What this is, and I've talked to many of you individually, the idea is that we are currently providing a lot of services for our expelled students, and it's not a bad thing, a good thing, or otherwise, but we're putting a lot of effort into these students while they're expelled. And so I started looking into how could we be better stewards of that money, how could we do this in a way that's more streamlined, how could we also provide a better service to the students. So I've talked to numerous school districts, and the most interesting one was I spoke to Superintendent Corley in DeSoto Parish, and I just was asking him a lot about his program, and he said, well, honestly, our program's totally different than it's ever been, and that kind of piqued my interest, and I said, well, how do you mean? And he said, well, because of COVID, what we've done is we've made all of our expelled students and our homebound students virtual students, and now that we're 6, 7, 8 months into a school year, with a pandemic, that makes so much sense, but they were a little bit ahead of the curve in that, because they realized, hey, we need to utilize these teachers for subs, for all different types of things. Let's move them out of there and make all these students virtual. And I said, well, how's it working? He said, man, initially we were concerned about it, but it's been working great. And I said, well, next question is, are you going to keep it in years to come? He said, of course we are. He said, it's working perfectly. And I said, well, why is it working perfectly? He said, well, number one, these are you don't want to encourage expulsion. And not that we do or don't, but oftentimes and I guess I would be guilty of this when I was an assistant principal and a teacher, when the only tool you have is a hammer, everything looks like a nail. And so when we tell teachers, when you have a problem with a student, or when we tell administrators you have a problem with a student, you can, for lack of a better way of putting it, get rid of them, then they're going to get rid of them. If instead we say, we're going to put these kids virtual and you're going to still have skin in the game and you're not going to be doing virtual and they're not going to be zooming in, but you're going to be facilitating their learning, you might be a little more hesitant to expel, you might be a little more apt to work with that student. But we still want to give teachers the tool when a student is being ultimately disruptive and not conducive to learning, but we want that to truly be the nuclear option. So that's one factor. The other factor is we could utilize these people. We're not saying like a reduction in force and saying get rid of these positions, but we could reapportion those positions that are being utilized to address expelled students, and we could instead use those positions in a more strategic fashion to help the district, whether it be because East needs music instruction, or we need more instructional coaches, or we need more tutors in the kindergarten, anything that perhaps could be utilized better than people addressing very small numbers of students but because they have so many different needs, you're having to really have a teacher for this subject and this grade level and all these things that we're doing with the expulsion. And then the final thing is, as far as these students, they're going to another school when they get expelled, and they're probably getting on a different curriculum. Same curriculum, but maybe a different place in the curriculum, and they're being taught by a different teacher. But if we can keep them with the same, you get expelled one day, the next day you're still in the same classes, that's going to be a benefit to them. The other part of this is we want to reduce expulsions to, at most, I've talked to Ms. Dubois, she has a system in place now where we can reduce expulsions to really maximum 9 weeks, unless it's one of those state mandated big three, drugs, weapon, assaulting a teacher, things of those nature where we have state minimums. But we can say, we're not trying to punish the student, we're trying to remediate the student. We're trying to fix the behavior. And so if we can reduce expulsions to a smaller amount of time, what we would propose is to put those students in virtual. It's only going to be for, at maximum, a 9-week period, and that way they can come back. They're probably more prepared because they're staying with their teacher. We're going to have less expulsions, and I think it's just a benefit, a win-win for everyone. So some questions that people have asked me. Well, what about the students who don't have internet? I've already talked to Mr. Kozad. We are able to purchase MiFi devices for both AT&T and Verizon and other carriers that we believe could address pretty much everyone's needs. I pulled the data on the past 2 years' expulsions. 96% of all students who've been expelled in the past 2 years have access to at least consistent cellular service. The majority of our students we could give them the day they get expelled. It won't be a happy day, but they would receive their iPad and their MiFi, and they'd be in the same classes, and they would be on Edgenuity, so the teacher would not be having to do anything more than really monitoring and keeping up with them in the same classes they're already in. And so they get that MiFi. Now, to give you an idea, we have reduced our expulsions from 2019 to 2020, which again wasn't a full year, and we know this is COVID. We only have right now a grand total of 15 students in this entire parish who are expelled, and actually after tomorrow it'll be 13 because 2 are coming back. Part of that's COVID. We're not going to sugarcoat it, but the other part of it is that Ms. Dubois is working with schools very intensely to give them other options. To highlight one, we have Mr. Coleman and Mr. Gordy doing after school and Saturday detention. But the other part of this is we have a program at our elementaries and junior highs which have virtually created no expulsions in elementary and junior high, called the BBLC. And that's a behavioral class where when a student has an expulsion-worthy behavior, and a lot of times it's, 2 8-year-olds fighting, do we need to expel 2 8-year-olds, or do we need to separate them, make sure they're not hurting each other, and then put them in a classroom where they're getting social and emotional help, and they learn from that mistake? Because the data shows us if we expel a student, we're increasing the probability that they're going to end up in prison, we're increasing the possibility that they're going to drop out, we're increasing the possibility they're going to get expelled again. So all this is not just to save a dime, it's to prevent further expulsions and, again, find creative ways, because we've learned a lot about virtual, find creative ways where we can be more strategic in our overall thinking. In a case where we would have a student who has absolutely no internet access, and I asked Superintendent Corley about this, he said we've only had a few cases, and in those cases we have the hotspots just like y'all do. He said we work with the student to make a program that they can work to where it's fair to them, fair to the school, and also allows them to make it back to school. I just think this would be a huge win for us and allow schools to focus on the things that matter, and also allow Mr. Benjamin to, one of his biggest problems at the technical school is that he has the black eye of having the students who everyone thinks are the quote-unquote bad kids. Well, number one, there's not such thing as a bad kid, although some parents are probably rolling their eyes at me right now. They're just kids who are going down a wrong path, and instead he can be a true technical program that doesn't have this other thing attached to it. And as I told you all in many of our meetings, we would never attach expelled students to a gifted program, an honors program, a college prep program. But for some reason we think it's okay to attach expelled students to a technical program. And I just think that sends the wrong message. So, questions, comments, concerns? Okay. With that being said, I can move on to number 2. Oh, I'm sorry. Is that you or me?
Oh, no, that's you.
You're in charge of that. Somebody going to number 2.
Okay, executive report, item number 2, consider approving 21-22 Natchitoches Parish School calendar. Dr. Eloy.
I'm sorry, I have no home training. As we put out, and thanks to the IT department, we put out a survey. We let people speak, and not overwhelmingly, but by a thin margin, they chose option 1. To give you specifics, 170 votes to 158, just so we can be fully transparent. So I would suggest to the board that you go with the option that the people chose. That being said, it's option 1, yes sir. And we looked at both options. Both of them are every person I've talked to has said that they, even if their option isn't chosen, they're happy with the calendar because it is a very teacher-friendly calendar, while also, to Mr. Benefield's concern and many people's concern, providing enough weather days that even if we have a hurricane and snow, we will be well placed to not have to amend the calendar next year.
I have a question
Yes,
or a
ma'am.
comment. I don't know if it's a printing thing
It is.
or...
I know what you're going to ask. Is it
Okay.
the yellow on December's
Yes.
Christmas holiday?
Because it looks like they go to school on Christmas
Yeah.
Eve.
So it's a full 2 on option 1. It's a full 2 weeks on the Monday and the 2 Mondays that are left off. For some reason, it provided yellow everywhere except where it needed to be. So.
I do want to tell you, I appreciate the way that you did this.
Mhm.
I've heard a lot of positive comments about the survey, and it was very much appreciated.
Well, just so you know, in my household, the vote was split.
Was it? Between you and your wife, or you and your kids?
She wins no matter what. So.
No questions, okay. We can move on to item number 3, discuss and consider employee survey regarding biweekly payroll for upcoming school year. Mr. McGuire is not with us tonight. Did he send information?
So I spoke to him, and I want to do what he asked Justice because we had a conversation. This is in response to typically during this time of year, because we pay all of our staff, they get the tax check on, I think this year was December 10th, and then they receive their paycheck for the month of December I think this time it was on the 18th, because then we were off. So people went about 6 weeks between paychecks when they typically go 4 weeks. So I think Mr. McGuire received some calls, as maybe some of you also did, about, can we do something to address this? Now, I believe Mr. McGuire's obvious thing is he wants to put out a survey to discuss the possibility of a bi-weekly payroll. When I spoke to him last Wednesday, I said, I would love to do a survey to do some more data mining in general about payroll. I've talked to my staff and Mr. Wascom specifically. We have what we think is a cleaner, less intrusive suggestion that we would put on the survey as well, and that would be to pay everyone we would prepare the payroll, but we would pay them on the last business day of the month, banking day. So that way, even if we got off on the 18th at Christmas at some point, they would maybe be paid on the 27th. Now you might say, oh my gosh, they need their Christmas paycheck before Christmas. They would have already received their tax check prior to that. And in this way, what we would do is it would make it to where you'd be paid every 4 weeks instead of that one time where you're getting paid after 6 weeks. Because I think in the district, most people were on beans and rice towards this last week, because it's difficult to budget when you usually do 4 weeks for 6 weeks. But we would be totally open to doing a survey to do that, as the leadership and Mr. Wasson and myself would prefer not to do the twice a month, because it logistically would be extremely difficult, and we think the other one would be easier and solve the problem in the same way. But we would be open to listening to the folks and see what they think about actually a myriad of things involving payroll.
We're going from 12 paychecks a year to 26.
Yeah. So.
Oh, it's actually 24. It'd be bi-monthly. Be
Like
paid on the
first
15th and 30th.
Yeah,
What would be the date?
some of them are gonna be, some's gonna be 25.
Yeah, when I worked for the
Council
state,
files, yeah.
when I worked for the state, we had 26 paychecks.
Yeah.
There was two months a year, you got 3 checks. Yeah.
There's a lot of work that goes into a payroll. I know that.
Yeah, so they could talk about it, but yes.
I have a question just about checks. When will they get their check? The $250 and the $500?
Are you talking about the
MFP allotment.
The MFP allotment?
Mm-hmm.
We're hoping within the next week or so to have that finished.
No.
Yes. So, there's bi-monthly and bi-weekly. So we're talking about bi-weekly. Bi-weekly is 26, plus bi-monthly is 24.
It's worded about weekly.
Bi-weekly,
Yeah.
okay, that would be 26,
That's
right?
26.
You're right.
And I mentioned to Mr. Matoir my exact thoughts I shared with y'all about this, and it was a brief conversation, so I don't know how he feels about our
Yeah, you'll
solution.
get a chance to be here on Thursday, and we can dialogue.
Okay.
I would rather dialogue on the committee meeting, but it's fine, it's fine.
Item number 4, consider approving the addition of pre-K and kindergartens in Natchitoches Magnet for the 21-22 school year. Dr. Aylward.
So everything I believe in offering more choice to parents, and we are a small parish, and sometimes parents don't feel like they have a lot of choice because we only have so many schools and so many things. I believe part of this is offering more choice at more schools to folks. I think the other part is Ms. Cassandra Anderson, when she was here talking to you, part of our strategic plan, and if you talk to Dr. Brumley at all, it's about early childhood. If we can catch these kids early and get them prepared, then life becomes so much easier for all involved. And this is a measure to involve more students in the entire parish who will choose to send their child to pre-K. Whether, we would advocate if you want to send your child to Head Start, if you want to send them to a daycare, if you want to send them to us, we want you to send them to something, and we believe by offering more opportunities, people are going to take those opportunities. I would love to give Ms. Stephanie French an opportunity to say a few words as the principal of Magnet and tell you how she feels about this opportunity.
Okay, for those of you who don't know, I think most of you do, but my name is Stephanie French, and I've been the principal of Natchitoches Magnet for 8 years. I love our community and I love our school. And I just wanted to address, 3 areas. I'm not going to talk very long for everyone in the room that is wondering. But the first thing I want to address is just the individual child. The way that we test children right now in Natchitoches Magnet School is they test at the end of kindergarten, which is not ideal for the child because they've already made relationships with their teachers, with their administrators, with their friend who sits next to them in kindergarten. And so we are always excited to get our first graders, like it's a hoop holler celebration when we call parents. But it is also difficult for those children to be pulled out of an environment that they've just kind of learned how to navigate. And if you've been in early childhood, it takes a while to learn how to navigate, going to the lunchroom and how we eat and things like that. So it does temporarily hurt the child a little bit when they have to break those relationships and start all over. There is a little anxiety. Our first graders get walked to class the first day with their moms and dads because they're all nervous. So by starting pre-K and kindergarten, we would not be pulling those kids out of what they're used to. They would start with our expectations. They would start with our hallways. They would start with our PBIS pride from day one. So that would be a benefit for the individual students. For the schools in the district, besides my school, this will also benefit other schools. I'm going to be honest and upfront and say they don't really like it when we take their kids. They feel like we're stealing the kids that they have poured all their time and all their energy and everything into. And so there is a little bit of animosity towards our school because we're taking all the good kids. And so we feel if we start at pre-K, kindergarten, we could grow our own kids, just like they've been growing the kids at their schools for all this time. And community-wise, we do feel like we could pull more kids from the private schools. We could pull more kids from homeschooling possibly. One of the issues I have with people moving to this community is they have siblings that are in 3rd or 4th grade, but they have a child that's in kindergarten, so they don't come to Magnet because they can't have both their kids in one place. So this would allow parents to have the opportunity to have their child at an A school for 10 years before they go to high school. So it would help us get more kids in the community to come to the public school system earlier. And I can speak for myself. We moved here 10 years ago. I have 2 kids in the system. One's about to graduate, one's at Magnet. But the first thing I did was Google the schools here. And that's what every other person is doing. So if we can offer some opportunities at Magnet for pre-K and kindergarten, it just gives us some more pull in to get people into the community. And to pull some of these kids that may be going to neighboring parishes, they live right on the line, we can pull some of them off the line. Because at Magnet, you don't have that issue if you have to live right here. So I think it would be a tremendous benefit for the community. It would help all the schools. And it would give us a chance to build our kids from the very foundations. We've been talking about how we'll test kids, and we have more data now than we ever had. That was one of the concerns when we first started. You can't test kids that young. Well, yeah, you can. And so we're able to figure out those things, and we're still working in the logistics of it. But I'm very hopeful that you guys will see the value in this, not just for us, but for Natchitoches Parish Schools.
Will the formula still be the same in staffing those children?
Yes, sir. Based on our earlier conversation about knowing Joseph. Yeah.
That's it? All right.
So we have another Natchitoches dignitary that we'd like to highlight. We had Dr. Maggio earlier, and we're so appreciative of his relationship. And I think later in the week we have the mayor come in and Kirk Swallow come in. We're pleased to have the parish president here as well, because we look at this system as we're symbiotic. If the parish is doing well, if the city's doing well, if the university's doing well, if the district's doing well, then more than likely we're all doing well. So I think President Harris and I, we want to make sure that everyone knows that we're a united front in this parish and that we're looking to tomorrow and looking to make everything in this parish better. And so we invited Mr. Richmond, and we'd like to give him a chance to say a few words if he would like.
Of course I would. Thank you, Reverend Harris. Thank you, Dr. Eloy, for inviting me. You just took away about half of what I had to say. This is a community effort. Symbiotic is a good way to put it. It's something that's very important, not just to the school district, not just to the parish, not just to the city, but to our entire parish as a whole. Many times we think about parish government as the government for the rural parts of the parish. Truth be known, every single resident of Natchitoches Parish, inside the city limits of Natchitoches or outside the city limits of Natchitoches, inside the incorporated municipalities that we have outside the city or not, they're all parish residents. And I can tell you, for me, it's a battle that I'm pleased to fight whenever it comes to things like funding, whenever it comes to things like our infrastructure woes. Those are things that need to get done. We all see the pictures on Facebook of our children who are in a school bus that slid off a dirt road, or a mom who's trying to get her kids to school in the morning before she goes to work, and there she is, stuck on a muddy dirt road, or a broken axle in a pothole. These things are real. You know, I had someone about a week ago say, you know, I just can't believe all the dirty trucks I see at Walmart these days. I said, I promise you they were clean before they left home. And that's not a joke. That's the reality of where we are, and we may as well address it. We are in this together. Your students, your faculty, your janitorial and custodial staff, your food service providers, your counselors, they all travel these roads. Many of them live in the rural parts of the parish, and many of them have needs to just get to work or get to school. And it's interesting that in 2021, we're talking about what we would all perceive as such a basic need. We're talking about wonderful programs. My gosh, I can't tell you how wonderful it was to hear about the things that are going on, but at the same time, how jealous I am of those budgets. It's wonderful. One thing people say all the time, but what can we do? Where we are and where we need to be, the gap is so large. What can we do as citizens? What can we do as a school board? What can we do as we go to our schools? What can we do? What message can we take to our churches? Here's what you can do. It's a very simple thing, and it starts in April. You've got ballot initiatives, we do too. There will be the continuance of a tax that's the solid waste tax. And you're going, solid waste, schools, what does that really have to do with each other? It has a lot to do with it. I'll tell you what, the people who live out in the parish, you know, they don't have the luxury that we do in the city of having someone come by and pick up their trash. They take it to a bin site. From there, the transportation happens, and we have to pay for that. That cost is about $1 million a year. The cost of the bin sites themselves, that being the infrastructure, the equipment, and the personnel, is about another $1 million. This tax totally funds that. That's where it comes from. Some will say that it's a new tax. It's not a new tax. It's the same tax that's been there for decades. It's 1 cent on everything that's bought outside the city limits of Natchitoches. It's a very large geographic area with a very small tax base, and this very important service absolutely depends on it. What you can do is support it. And not quietly, not just at the ballot box, but very loud and very vocally. This is something that in this day and time, when people hear tax, they think, oh, I don't want another tax. This is the same tax, and it's a very vital service. I'll leave you with one story and then a couple of facts after that. The one story I have to tell you is whenever I was a child, growing up in Rapides Parish, of course, we'd come to Natchitoches. Come to Natchitoches for the Christmas festival, come to Natchitoches for literary rally when you were in school, come to Natchitoches for events at NSU. It was a wonderful place to be. I can remember driving up on a Saturday morning for maybe a football game at Northwestern and seeing fires burn out in the fields. Now, I wasn't from South Louisiana where they burned sugar cane, and we certainly weren't burning sugar cane up here. Come to find out, people were burning their trash. And those of you who have lived in this parish for 30 or 40 years can remember when it was a Saturday ritual, if you lived in the rural parts of the parish, go in the backyard and burn your trash. This is about safety and sanitation for the children and the administrators and the counselors and the teachers and the food service professionals and everyone else you can imagine that works and travels to your schools. And yes, if there is a surplus in that fund, it goes to help the roads. Please, at every opportunity, all day, every day, between now and the ballot box that you go to in April, I need for you, your parish needs for you, to advocate for this tax. Technically, it will be on as a new tax. We're required to do that because it lapsed in December. However, this is the same tax you were going to vote on, whether it was last year or this year. Nothing's changed. The wording won't change. It's still a 10-year tax. We'll have to address it again in 10 years. It's 1 cent sales tax. It's for the health and safety and obviously the amenities of the parish. I told you I'd give you a couple of facts after that story. Let me give you those couple of facts. Those of us who are involved in economic development in our parish are constantly looking for businesses who want to relocate, and there are a lot that want to relocate these days. Because of COVID-19, people are realizing that the more congested urban areas are not for them. Distance working is something that can happen. The virtual networks that are out there have allowed people to zoom in, literally, and get their work done. And they realize they can do that here. They look at a few things. And as you heard earlier, they Google your school system. They Google our form of government. They Google our tax structure. And they Google things like, how do they handle just the basic necessities? Water, sewer, solid waste pickup, electricity, what are the rates? Those are real things, and we hear a lot that our schools are getting better and our roads are bad. And oh my gosh, we've got to make sure that we keep some more bin sites going so it's easier for people to drop their trash off. You wouldn't believe how many times in an economic development meeting with a company that's looking to move millions of dollars worth of their business into our area, they go, you know, we're really kind of hung up on this trash pickup thing. We don't have it. Well, we don't. But we sure need to at least have what we got, which is places for people to safely dispose of their waste and safely get that transferred to our landfill and to other landfills. We're very thankful that we have contracts in place to do it. They negotiate with us on a yearly basis. They've kept their rates very low. So this is not an increase by any means. It is just the sustenance we need to survive in this area. If you have any questions, I'll be more than happy to take them now or at any time.
Mr. Richmond, I personally want to go on record saying I support this tax 100%. Those of you that own property in the parish, and if you're old enough, you will remember driving up on your property and finding couches, washing machines, and whatever thrown out because there's no place to go. This tax is vital to our parish. There's no way not to support this tax. And I appreciate you coming around and going to all the different places to explain how vital it is to us. Because it's very, very important.
Thank you.
And I want to thank Mr. Benefield for his initiation of this partnership and him coming to the parish council, and we told you that we would reciprocate the mutual feeling. Let me say this, and this goes on the record from me. If I'm anti-parish tax, that is actually a tax that we've been doing that lapsed. If I'm anti-parish tax, I am anti-Natchitoches as well. I am pro-tax. I'm for this tax simply because whether I like you or dislike you, you are one person, and it's like drinking poison and hoping that my enemy dies. That's how that is. And so I'm not going to allow one person to destroy this whole ideal some of that tax goes toward the road too.
Absolutely,
And it's been doing it for the last however many years it's been on the books.
that's right.
But the most part is what Mr. Benefield said. I've seen it. I was in the furniture business. I've seen folks throw their furniture away in the middle of the road, and we having to come pick it up.
Yeah.
So, again, as for me and my house, we will serve the tax.
Thank you very much, I appreciate your time, and look, the growth that we've had as a group, the relationship that, I can say that I've only been in parish government for a year, but what a year it's been with COVID-19, and I must sing the praises of Miss Page over here. This summer, when things were going a little haywire, and we had to figure out how to keep school kids fed, there was somebody that stood up, and it was her. And I'm very thankful for that. And the relationship has grown throughout the school board. This is a comfortable place. We're all neighbors. We live in a great parish. That is Natchitoches Parish. We're large geographically. We're small in numbers, but my goodness, we're big in heart. And what a wonderful place it is. Let's make tomorrow better than today. Let's vote for the tax. And let's make sure that our solid waste services continue. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. All right, I think that concludes our committee meeting. Good night, God bless you.
See you Thursday.